What would you do if a car followed you for 500 miles, but never passed, never turned off, and never showed a driver? This isn't a story, it's a warning from the highway. And it happened to a man named Mike Henderson. Where are you watching this from? Just curious how far this story will travel. Mike Henderson had been driving trucks for over 15 years. Long-haul routes, night shifts, snowstorms, bad coffee, he'd seen it all. The man could tell you what part of the country you were in just by how the wind hit the side of his rig or how the truck groaned up a hill. He was solid behind the wheel, dependable. Not the kind of guy who spooked easily. That's important to know. It was winter, early 2019, the kind of cold that made the air feel heavy. Mike was hauling a load from Chicago to Sacramento. Route was familiar, Interstate 80. Long stretches of nothing broken by the occasional gas station glowing faintly in the dark. He'd done it dozens of times. Left Chicago just after noon. Nebraska was somewhere behind him now, and the clock had slipped past 2 in the morning. There was no moon that night. Just the black sky stretching above him like a ceiling with no end. The snow had been falling for hours. Light at first, but by now it was steady. Steady enough that it blurred everything ahead of him into a curtain of white. His headlights punched through it, but the flakes swallowed the light faster than it could travel. It was the kind of drive that gets in your head. The kind that makes you feel like the road is stretching forever, that you've always been driving, and always will be. Mike leaned forward slightly, eyes scanning the road. His hands rested on the wheel with the kind of calm you only get from years on the job. The engine hummed beneath him, a deep, steady rumble that felt almost alive. Around him, only the sound of tires on asphalt, the occasional gust of wind, and that quiet whisper of snow tapping gently against glass. He hadn't passed another vehicle in miles. Inside the cab, the radio was silent. Mike had turned it off maybe an hour ago. Too much static. The CB crackled now and then, but nothing worth tuning in for. Just background noise. It was just him, the truck, and that endless stretch of frozen road. He liked it that way, most of the time. There was something honest about it. No distractions, no chatter. Just miles and thoughts. Still, that night felt off. He couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the cold, or the way the snow danced in the beam of his headlights like it had a mind of its own. Maybe it was how quiet everything was. Too quiet. Like the world had gone to sleep and forgot to wake up. He took a sip from the thermos next to him. Lukewarm coffee with a hint of diesel from the truck stop air. His eyes went to the mirrors out of habit. Nothing behind him but snow and darkness. Still, he kept glancing back. Something tugged at him. A twitch, a whisper of a thought, like his instincts were trying to nudge him awake. Mike had been on that stretch of I-80 too many times to count. He knew the dips in the road, the exits without names, the way certain signs leaned just a little too far to the left. It was the kind of route that became a part of you. And that night, something didn't feel right along that road. Something had changed, and he couldn't quite put his finger on it. He shook his head and refocused, tightening his grip just slightly on the wheel. Another glance in the mirror. Still nothing. He didn't know it yet, but he was already being watched. It started with a pair of headlights. Mike first noticed them just outside of North Platte. He checked his mirrors like he always did. Habit, really, and there they were. Dim. Far back. Just two dull orbs glowing through the snowfall, too faint to make out much else. He didn't give it much thought at first. Cars followed trucks all the time during storms. Made sense. Stick close, use the taillights, let the big rig clear the way through the worst of it. He kept driving. An hour passed. Maybe more. He checked again. Still there. Still just far enough that he couldn't make out the make or model. No movement. No attempt to pass. Just sitting there like it was tethered to his trailer. He pressed his lips together, gave a short, humorless chuckle, and told himself to stop thinking like that. Probably some nervous driver holding pace behind a rig like any cautious person would do. Especially in snow like this. But when he changed lanes to give the car a chance to pass, it didn't move. It shifted with him. Perfectly. Like a mirror. Mike tried brushing it off. Maybe they were waiting for an exit. Maybe they were on a long haul too. Maybe they were just as tired as he was and clinging to the comfort of someone else's path. He told himself a lot of things over the next 30 miles. None of them helped. He sped up. The road was slick, but the tires were holding well. 65. 70. 75. The headlights matched his speed, never gaining, never falling back. Always the same distance. Like they were riding an invisible rail that led straight to him. He slowed down, dropped it to 60, then 55, then 50. The sedan adjusted, flawlessly. Never too quick, never too slow. Just enough to keep that space constant. Mike gripped the wheel a little tighter. There was a feeling crawling into his gut now, something sour and low and steady. He checked the mirrors again, hoping he'd imagined it all. Still there. Just those headlights, soft and patient. It was starting to wear on him. The longer he watched, the less sense it made. He couldn't see the driver. Couldn't even tell if there was one. Just a shape behind the wheel, if anything. The lights from his truck bounced off the windshield too much to get a good look. He took the next exit. A small ramp leading into a stretch of quiet road and a diner with a half-lit sign. He didn't even need gas. He just needed to get off the road, get his eyes out of the mirrors, give himself 5 minutes to shake whatever was working its way into his head. As he turned off, he watched the sedan in the mirror. Any second now, it would follow. He was sure of it. But it didn't. It kept going. Just drove straight on through the snow and disappeared into the dark. Mike parked in the lot and let the truck idle. For a moment, he sat there in the cab, staring at the highway he'd just left. No movement. No lights. Nothing but snow drifting across the off-ramp like it had swallowed the world whole. He told himself it had been coincidence. Timing. Random chance. The same way you end up next to someone on a plane more than once or see the same stranger at 2 different gas stations in one day. That's all it was. Just miles and paranoia messing with his head. He grabbed some coffee inside. Stared at the steam rising off the cup for a long time before he took a sip. His hands were still steady, but there was a faint ringing in his ears. Not loud. Just enough to notice. He stayed an hour, maybe more. When he pulled back onto the interstate, the road was empty again. Just the snow, the hum of the tires, and the sound of his own breath. He checked the mirrors, out of habit, out of fear, out of something he couldn't name. The headlights were back. Same distance. Same glow. Like they'd never left. Mike didn't speak for a long time after he saw the headlights again. He didn't curse, didn't mutter, didn't even blink right away. Just stared into the mirror, jaw tight, while the snow whispered against the windshield and the hum of the engine rolled steady beneath him. The sedan had returned to the exact spot it held before. No closer. No farther. Like it had never been gone at all. He pushed his foot down. Speed crept up. 60. 65. 70. The truck grumbled as it pulled through the slush, tires spitting out white mist in both directions. The road was still quiet. Too quiet. And yet, when he glanced back, the lights were still there. Holding. Tracking him like a bloodhound. He cut right, sudden and sharp, onto another exit. One he'd never taken before. It wasn't marked well. Just a narrow curve toward a snow-covered access road. There was no reason anyone would follow him down it unless they knew where it led. And that's what he was counting on. The sedan didn't follow. Mike curved around a small loop, barely wide enough for a truck. He came back onto the interstate 3 miles west of where he'd exited. It took him less than 10 minutes. He was sure that it would buy him time. There was no way that car could have tracked that move without being glued to his bumper. Yet, when he hit the highway again and eased back into his lane, he checked the mirror. The lights were there. His hands gripped the wheel harder now. Not from fear. From something colder. Something quieter. A voice in the back of his mind whispering that things weren't adding up. He reached for the CB radio. Breaker 19, Breaker 19, This is Big Mike. Anyone got ears on I-80 westbound near Pine Ridge? Come on, drivers. Somebody out there's got to be listening. I got a car tailing me for going on 3 hours now. Won't pass. Won't drop back. Just sitting in my mirrors like it owns the spot. Anyone else seen it? You got Big Joe eastbound, driver. Just passed through that stretch. Didn't see much but snow and emptiness. What kind of car you talkin' about? Dark sedan. Lights dim. No plate I can make out. Been hugging my back bumper like a lost dog. But here's the thing, it ain't following me. It's keeping pace. Like it knows where I'm going before I do. That's funny. About an hour and a half ago, I passed a car matching that. It was sittin' on the shoulder. Lights off. Just sitting. Like it was waitin' on someone. The radio fell silent after that. Mike didn't respond. He couldn't. His brain was running the numbers. He'd been on the road non-stop. No stops long enough for anyone to leapfrog ahead of him. No alternate routes that wouldn't take at least twice the time. And yet, if that sedan had been spotted ahead of him an hour and a half earlier, his heart sank in a way that made everything else feel still. He scanned the horizon, then the mirrors, then the road again. Nothing made sense anymore. Every trick he'd ever used to lose a tail, he'd tried it. Sudden exits, construction detours, off-ramp loops, even parking on the shoulder for a quick check of his tires. Every time, he'd expected the car to be gone when he returned. Every time, it was waiting for him, like it knew. He swerved through a construction zone next, cones narrowing the lanes to one side, tight curves forcing him to slow to a crawl. Orange signs flickered past, wet and half-buried in slush. He eased through, keeping an eye on the mirror. The sedan followed. Smooth. Effortless. No hesitation. Not a blink of hesitation. It was there, threading through cones like it belonged. No brake lights. No turn signals. Just those two eyes in the dark. He began to question things he'd never questioned before. Was he being tracked? Was this about his cargo? His route? Something he saw? His mind spiraled through scenarios, each one worse than the last. He looked down at the dash. No signs of tampering. No blinking lights. His phone was off. GPS tracker secure. No missed calls. No strange messages. Just a long stretch of highway, and a ghost car that wouldn't let him go. Mike knew the road well. He knew it better than his own driveway. And yet, nothing felt familiar anymore. The snow, the silence, the hum of the tires. Each second stretched longer than it should. Like time itself was waiting for something to happen. He wasn't just being followed. He was being studied. Mike pulled into the truck stop and parked under the brightest lights he could find. Sodium lamps buzzed above him, humming with a kind of mechanical fatigue, casting their glow onto his windshield like the world was trying to pretend nothing was wrong. But it was wrong. Every inch of him knew it. He could see the car. It was right there. Same distance, same place, same posture. Still. Unmoving. Watching. He stepped inside and found the night manager, a man with half-lidded eyes and a worn-out voice, someone who looked like nothing surprised him anymore. Mike asked if they had cameras on the lot. The man nodded. Said they did. Said he'd check. They reviewed the footage together. Rewound the tape. Slow motion. Pause. Zoom. Nothing. Mike's truck rolled into frame, alone. No sedan. No headlights trailing him. No shadow hovering in the distance. Just the 18-wheeler gliding into the lot like any other night. Like every other driver who had passed through. He stared at the screen for a long time, waiting for the image to glitch, to catch up. It never did. He turned to the window. The car was still out there, sitting like it always had. Exactly where he remembered it. That's when he noticed the plate. Or rather, what should have been a plate. It was smudged over, crusted with something. Snow or dirt, maybe, but in a way that looked too complete. Not sloppy. Not accidental. It covered every digit, every letter. Like it was made that way. Like someone wanted it unreadable. No brake lights, either. In all the hours he'd watched that vehicle, it had slowed and stopped dozens of times. But never once had he seen red. Never once had the car signaled before changing direction, or indicated a turn, or even responded to another vehicle on the road. He asked the manager if they'd seen it before. The man shrugged. Said weird things show up sometimes. Especially this time of year. Said most people didn't stick around long enough to get real answers. Then he picked up the phone. 30 minutes later, a state trooper stepped into the building. Snow clung to his boots. The badge on his chest caught the light. He didn't roll his eyes. Didn't smirk. He asked Mike to start from the beginning. Mike told him everything. About the following, the highway, the sedan's strange movements, the mirrors, the exits, the truck stop camera. The trooper listened. Quietly. Patiently. And when Mike finished, the man didn't laugh. Didn't dismiss it. Instead, he asked one question. Has anyone else been asking about your route lately? That line sat between them like a dead animal on the floor. Mike stared. The trooper didn't explain. Just let the weight of it settle. He went on to say that, over the last year, a few truckers had come through with similar stories. Always at night. Always alone. Cars that stayed just out of reach. Cars that seemed to know things they shouldn't. Where drivers would stop. Where they would rest. What route they'd take, even when it changed. None of the sightings ever led to arrests. None of the plates ever matched a registered vehicle. Cameras never caught the cars arriving. Only leaving. When they were gone, they were gone. Like smoke. Like memory. Mike tried to stay calm. Tried to think through it logically. But there was no map for this. No checklist to work through. The car was real. He had seen it. But no one else could. Not in the way he did. Not with proof. The tape showed nothing. The manager had seen nothing. But the sedan was still there, clear as the cold night, parked on the edge of the lot. Still watching. The trooper offered to escort him to the state line. Mike accepted. As they pulled out, the sedan fell in behind them. Again. Same position. Like it was part of the convoy. Neither man said anything. Mike watched the trooper glance into his rear view now and then, but his face gave nothing away. They drove that way for nearly an hour. Mike wondered more than once if he should speak. If the officer was seeing what he was. If they were both pretending it wasn't happening, or if only one of them was pretending at all. Then, just before the Colorado border, the car did something new. It accelerated. Smooth, effortless, and fast. Past them both like a whisper. No tire noise. No rush of air. Just motion. Forward. Into the dark. The trooper tried to follow. Lights on. Siren low. But after less than 5 minutes, the car had vanished. No sign. No tracks. That was the last time Mike ever saw it. He still thinks about it sometimes. About how it always stayed just far enough away to be real, but never close enough to be caught. He still doesn't know what it was, or who was inside, if anyone was inside. The highways are long. The nights are longer. And sometimes, if you're out there past a certain hour, you feel like you're not driving through the dark. You're being pulled through it. By something that knows the road better than you ever will. Something that waits in the quiet, just beyond the reach of headlights. Something that doesn't want to pass you. It just wants to follow. Mike still hauls freight up and down that same stretch of highway. Same rig. Same routines. But some things have changed. He won't stop at that truck stop anymore. Says the lights feel dimmer now. Says the place feels off, like a stage after the play is over. The backdrop's still there, but something's missing, and it's the thing you wish wasn't. He never talks much about what happened. Only says the road started feeling longer after that night. Like the distance between towns stretched just a little wider. Like the quiet carried more weight than before. He doesn't drive after midnight now. Won't admit it's on purpose. says it's better for his schedule. But anyone who knows him knows better. He's not afraid. Not exactly. He's just cautious. And if you ever ride with him, if you ever find yourself in that passenger seat, you'll notice something strange. He doesn't check his mirrors. Not unless he absolutely has to. Not because there's nothing there, but because sometimes there is. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever been followed by something that never wanted to pass? Have you ever seen headlights in the dark that felt too steady? Too patient? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if you enjoy strange, eerie tales like this, stories that make you look over your shoulder long after the screen fades to black, make sure to like, subscribe, and send in your own experiences. Because somewhere out there, another driver's on the road tonight. And they're not alone.